Welcome back to your favorite faceless mask commentator. I cover news and give my personal thoughts. Subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment if you find my commentary interesting. Today we're talking about the May Day walkouts that recently happened. It was basically a massive workers' strike against billionaires, or so they claim. If you listen closely to the rhetoric, it's less about billionaires and more about Trump. Although a few parents supported this, there were many parents that were rightfully upset about this. The May Day event is a massive group of unions acting on the same day protesting against supposed billionaires. We're talking over 500 groups taking more than 5,000 walkouts at once across the states. The participating groups consist of labor unions, student-led groups, and community organizations. At the helm stands the National Education Association. This is the country's largest teachers' union led by President Beck Pringle. They're often bitching about the cuts to public education services for kids. We also have the Sunrise Movement, which claims to be fighting fascism for a Green New Deal. There were other groups that protested against ICE and anti-war. Many school districts had to forcibly close on short notice because of the massive amounts of staff call-outs. Others took over places like Home Depot. Even college campuses like Kent State protested in the rain for removing DEI. The impact was massive, but some of you may have noticed something a little off. A normal workers' strike or walkout protest tends to stay local. The reason for that isn't because it's smaller or their voices don't matter. It's because it's often targeted at a clearly defined issue, therefore often limited to the scope whatever business or local government they claim to fight against. When groups like this collab, their message must be amplified to put more pressure on their intended target. Otherwise, the original message gets lost in translation or there are too many targets. Chase two rabbits, end up with none. That's exactly what's off with the May Day protest, because both of those issues are on display here. Too many messages, too many targets. As such, their solution was to combine all of their targets into a singular entity, the billionaires. For example, take a look at exactly what they're protesting against on their official website. If the issue is economics and union rights at the core, who specifically is the rich, and how exactly are they hurting workers? No clear target, no clear issue they're protesting. What does workers' union have to do with ICE deportations and the Iran war? Again, if the goal is focused on the public sector, then ICE and Iran are irrelevant. Finally, not only is the third point the most vague, but you're defending the current voting system. The same system, by your words, that Donald Trump was able to cheat in and steal the 2016 election? Secondly, if you dissect these messages, you'll find a common denominator, either the Trump administration or pro-Democrat policies. In other words, business as usual with Democrats screaming that their favorite toys are being taken away. Even so, let's say you're not political. Where exactly does that leave you and your child during all this? The average parent was absolutely pissed about the sudden closures. First and foremost, the parents were never directly notified about this event. Private notice and email subscribers were roughly notified 2 to 3 weeks before the first, as teachers were putting in their notice, while media coverage didn't really spike until mere days before. I specifically say this to highlight that most school boards had no time to give the parents direct notice. There were no official letters home via children-to-parent communication. Public information existed, but there was little to no contact between school board and parents. Many parents that didn't want any part of this got completely blindsided. Education watchdogs like Defending Education warn that this whole day is the starting point for agitation leading up to the 2028 election. This is in reference to the political weaponization of schools and children. Sunrise Movement, for example, actively trains and mobilizes students to be protest leaders. Since 2015, unions like that have spent billions into various political groups for this exact purpose. I'll make myself clear. This is beyond a political issue. Workers and teachers' union strikes are fine. Blindsiding the parents because of workers' strikes is fine too. It's the natural outcome of sudden strikes with no real way to properly inform the parents of protesting. The issue is, as I've highlighted, this is not a workers' union strike. This is a protest no different than the King Rally, Women's March, and BLM riots in some cases. Yes, you can include January 6th if you want. But the same question applies. What the fuck does this have to do with children's education? This is the same question parents were asking schools that allowed queer story time explaining sex kinks to children. We're already dealing with a serious decline in literacy rates across most grades. The latest National Assessment of Educational Progress shows only 31% of fourth graders perform at or above the recommended level. This is actually a drop from the 2022 of the same study, and even more so from the 2019 study. Studies from the National Report Card and Program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies show very similar trends. For my personal thoughts, this walkout has absolutely no effect on anything. I don't say that as another stab against liberals. If the goal was economic pain, you'd need at least quadruple amount of people to stop purchases for at least a few months to have any real impact. Affecting an entire economy takes time. You can't just flip a switch and crash an economy. This movement accomplished absolutely nothing but inconveniencing the parents of these kids and in some cases, putting them in danger. If MAGA and Republicans were as dangerous as you claimed, then all it would take is one crazy shooter or a sudden ICE raid to cause a massive situation. That's assuming they're in a safe environment, not filled with child kidnappers like Nick Shirley. Next is what exactly they're fighting for. They claim that billionaires are defunding them, but if you actually look at what Trump actually did, he simply walked back the red tape. Before Trump, schools were forced to implement all sorts of DEI options, which have been proven by many to be counterproductive in many circumstances. Diversity means not treating people any differently than others, and yet that's exactly what DEI does. In addition, if businesses have to adapt to these policies, it creates tighter restrictions, often forcing local government to choose between upholding federal law over its people. You'd rather they pick monarchy over the will of the people? And as far as billionaires defunding public schools, do some fucking research. Most of the funding comes from state government and property taxes or tuition if you're in college. Federal spending into schools is often less than 15%. You're fighting tooth and nail for that? That tells me that your teacher unions are in need of a little pruning, especially since they're clearly not doing their job according to the declining education rates. When it comes to the Green New Deal, I'll admit I'm a little green myself here. I've never understood climate change nonsense very well, and at this point, I don't want to. Thanks to Iran, we've learned that the world truly needs oil, at least for right now. Why else do we have people from other states buying our crude now? To my current understanding, the Green New Deal doesn't provide any real solutions while simultaneously demanding we give up our current energy structure. I said this before, but you can't disturb an energy sector because it's like an ecosystem. Make a solution that can first coexist with current solutions, then prove and improve upon it until it comfortably surpasses the old system. I encourage the woke liberals to keep going. I'm serious. Keep fucking around with people's kids while flexing how retarded you are. You're showing the entire world exactly what you are. Every time you promote and celebrate violence, every time you push to protect illegal aliens, every time you lie, that's one more Democrat and independent turned Republican. You're losing for a reason. If you found my take on this interesting, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.